everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel from Evelyn&Peter, and today I have this cute crochet shrug pattern to share with you guys. I'm so excited for this one. You can find the free pattern on my blog, ENPcrochet.com, and it's in sizes extra small through 5X. I am making the size small, medium in this video tutorial, so I recommend pulling up that free pattern, especially if you are making a different size, because your stitch counts and row counts will be different. It's also available as a kit with Line Brand, and the kit comes with all the yarn you need to make your shrug, plus a free copy of my printable pattern. So if you plan on getting the yarn and the pattern at the same time, I always recommend to get the kit. It's usually the best deal, especially when they have their 35% off sales, which I like to share with you guys if you're subscribed to my newsletter. So if not, you can just head to my blog, pop in your email, and then I will send out a newsletter whenever they have a really good sale on my kits, or whenever I have a new pattern or tutorial dropping. So I don't ever share your email or spam it. I only send out a couple emails a month whenever I have new stuff coming out or good sales. And then I also like to share coupon codes and freebies and stuff like that in the newsletter as well. So make sure you are subscribed to that. You can also find the pattern on Etsy and Ravelry. I will link to everything in the description for you guys. Just a quick rundown on how the pattern is made. You're going to be making 2 mirrored panels from the cuff all the way up to the back neckline, and then you'll just do a seam down the back as well as the underarms, and then add the trim at the end. So it's pretty straightforward. We use basic stitches, but there is maybe a little bit more intermediate shaping within this pattern, so you'll be doing some increases within the middle of the rows. It's very important to have your stitch marker in place as you go, and then you'll be doing some short row shaping here at the opening as well. So I hope you guys like this tutorial, and I will catch you guys in the next one. For this design, you're going to need a worsted weight yarn. I'm using Line Brand's Woolies recycled yarn in the color cream, and I have all of the exact yardage and skein requirements for each of the sizes available free on my blog, so you can head to ENPcrochet.com to make sure you have the correct amount of yarn for your size. You're also going to need a pair of scissors, a needle, a 5mm crochet hook, and then a couple of stitch markers as well. These are very important, so make sure you have 2 of them. For this shrug, we're going to be making 2 mirrored panels. So we're going to be starting off with the ribbing section. So we're going to be creating the ribbing rows to make the cuff, and both of them start off the exact same way. So I just have a slip knot here, insert my hook, and then we're going to do a series of chains. So I'm just going to yarn over and pull through for a total of 14 chains. For row 1, we're going to work 1 single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So I like to work my single crochets into the back bump. You can do it however you prefer. So I'm just going to rotate my chain slightly, insert my hook into the back bump, and then work a single crochet. And I'm just going to do this in each of the chains all the way back down. So insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'm doing this in each chain for a total of 13 single crochet stitches. When you get to the end of the row, you can go ahead and chain 1 and turn your work, and then row 2 is what we will be repeating for the remainder of the cuff portion here. So in the very first stitch, you're going to insert your hook under both the front and the back loop, and then work 1 single crochet stitch like normal. And then in the following stitch, you're going to put your hook in the back loop only. So you have the loop closest to you, which is the front loop, and then the loop furthest away from you is your back loop. So you're going to insert your hook under the back loop and then just work a single crochet like normal. And you're going to do this all the way across the row, working 1 single crochet into the back loop only until you get to the very end of the row, where you will finish with a single crochet under both the front and the back loop. So I'm coming up on the end of row 2 here, and I'm just going to finish with my hook under both the front and the back and do my final single crochet. And so we still have a total of 13 single crochet stitches. You're going to turn your work, chain 1, and just repeat row 2 as many times as required for your size. So I will be working a total of 27 rows for my cuff here. So for rows 2 through 27, I'm just going to do the single crochet stitches, and I will meet you back here when it is complete. Okay, so now I have a total of 27 rows here for the ribbing, and for row 1 of the main portion of this panel, we're going to be working into the ends of those ribbing rows. So chain 1, and then in the very end of the very last row that you made, so we're working into the side of the stitch of the very last row, you're going to insert your hook and then work a single crochet stitch into the end of that row, and then you're going to work a second single crochet into that very same spot. So again, in that same spot that you just put your hook, work a second single crochet. And then again into the end of the second row, you're going to work a single crochet and then work a second single crochet into the same spot. And we're going to do this all the way across, just working 2 single crochet stitches into the end of each of the rows. It might feel a little weird at first trying to shove so many stitches in a small spot, but it will work up as you go and start to look more normal. So just continue to work 2 single crochet into the end of each row until you get to the end, and there will only be 1 single crochet worked into the end of the final row. So 2 in each across, and then in this last row here I'm going to finish with 1 single crochet into the end of it to finish off the row. So that completes row 1. I have a total of 53 single crochet stitches. Make sure you're just following along with the pattern so you know what you should have for your size. And then you can go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work. So your piece is going to look wavy and crazy at this point, and it's supposed to, so don't worry about that. And now we're going to begin row 2. So you're going to work a half double crochet into that very first stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. And we're just going to be working half double crochet stitches into the top of each of these stitches. So we're going to be making an increase in the middle of the row here. So what you want to do is find the very center stitch from row 1 and place a stitch marker into it so that we know where that center stitch is. So I recommend having your stitch marker already in place in row 1. I did not do that in the video tutorial here. I really should have had that in place so you guys can see, but you can easily mark out that very center stitch in row 1 by just counting across and finding that middle stitch. So for the size small medium that I'm making, the center stitch is the 27th stitch of the row. So I'll have 26 single crochet on one side, 26 on the other, and that very center stitch is the 27th. So this next stitch that I'm coming up to now, this is my 27th stitch, and I'm going to work a half double crochet stitch into it. And then if you already had your stitch marker in that spot, you can remove it and move it up. So for the increase rows, you're going to be working 3 stitches into the same spot. So I'm going to place my stitch marker and now work a second half double crochet into that same spot. So you can see the stitch marker is now in the top of that second half double crochet. And then I'm going to work a third half double crochet into that same stitch as well. So I have 3 half double crochet all in the very center stitch of row 1, and my stitch marker is keeping my center spot in this current row now. So I worked 3 into it, and that and the stitch marker is in that second half double crochet of the 3. And now I'm just going to finish the row by working 1 half double crochet in each remaining stitch all the way to the end, then chain 2 and turn. So for this row, we're going to be working 1 double crochet into the top of each stitch across. So this is not an increase row. This is just 1 double crochet in each stitch. So I'm going to work my way across to the stitch marker, and then I'm going to show you how to move it up as you go. It's really important with each row that you take the stitch marker out and then move it up to the current row into the center stitch. So it's always going to stay in the center stitch of each row. So I worked my way to the stitch marker here, and I'm just going to remove it out of the stitch from the row below, and then I'm just going to stick it into the loop that's on my hook so that when I work a double crochet into the stitch, it stays in the middle of the row. So I'm going to remove it and then just pop it on the loop. and then work my double crochet like normal, and you'll just move this up each row. So make sure you do that every single time. And when you have an increase row where you work 3 into the same one, you'll be putting your stitch marker into the center of those 3. Make sure you don't accidentally put it in the first one. You want it to be in the center of the 3. So now we're just going to finish with 1 double crochet in each remaining stitch across the row to complete row 3. So for row 4, you can chain 2, turn your work, and now we're just going to be alternating half double crochet rows and double crochet rows for the remainder of this portion of the pattern. So work a half double crochet into that first stitch and into each of the stitches until you reach that center stitch marker. This one is going to be an increase row, so I will show you again how to do that. So just work 1 half double crochet in each stitch till you reach that center stitch. So now I've reached the middle of the row. I'm going to remove that stitch marker, and then because we're increasing here, we're working 3 into the same stitch. So you don't want to put your stitch marker in the very first one, because then that will throw off your center stitch. So first work a half double crochet into it, and then you can go ahead and place your stitch marker on the loop on your hook, and then work your second half double crochet into that same spot, and then work a third and final half double crochet into the same stitch as well. So now we have 3 half double crochet all into the same spot, and our stitch marker is in the center stitch. So now you can just finish the row by working 1 half double crochet into each of these stitches until the end of the row. Okay, so now for row 5, you can go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work. And this row, we're just going to be working 1 double crochet into each stitch across the row. When you reach your center stitch marker, you can go ahead and remove it and then just move it up to the current row. And this is not an increase row, so just go ahead and work 1 double crochet into that center stitch, and then finish off the row with 1 double crochet in each remaining stitch across. When you get to the end of the row, go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work, and then you can work half double crochet stitches back across the row. You can see here now I'm reaching the center stitch marker. I'm going to remove that, and I'm just going to move it up, and then I'm going to finish off row 6 here with just 1 half double crochet in each remaining stitch across. So this was also not an increase row, it was just a normal half double crochet row to the end. For row 7, you can chain 2, turn your work, work 1 double crochet in each stitch across. When you hit that center stitch marker, we are going to be increasing. So you can go ahead and remove the stitch marker once you reach it, work 1 double crochet into that stitch, and then go ahead and place your stitch marker onto that loop on your hook, work a second double crochet into the same spot, and then finally work a third double crochet into that same spot as well. So then you'll just finish this row with 1 double crochet in each remaining stitch to the end of the row. So now you're just going to be repeating the rows that I showed you. So the following row will be row 8, and it's just a half double crochet row. And then for rows 9 through 41, you'll repeat rows 3 through 8 over and over again. So every other row, you'll be alternating with either a half double row or a double. So we have a double row right now. Our next row will be a half double crochet row. And then every third row, you'll be increasing. So we increased in this current row. So the next row, you'll just work half double crochet across. The following row, you'll work a double crochet across. And then the row after that, you'll have a half double crochet increase row. So you're just going to continue repeating that until you have a total of 41 rows. So every other row, you'll make sure you switch out which stitch you're doing, and then every third row do an increase, and make sure you bring that stitch marker with you as you go, and then your panel will start to look like this. So I have a total of 41 rows here, alternating half double and double, and making sure I have that increase every third row. And now we're going to be doing some shaping. Again, all of that is in the written pattern, so make sure you have that pulled up so you don't get confused on which row you are on. It's all written out for you there. You should still have your stitch marker in place, so I'm going to go ahead and stick mine back in that center stitch. Make sure you always keep it in the center stitch of your panel so you can keep track of where you're at. So I'm just going to place mine back in before we continue on. So you will be making 2 of these panels, and this portion that we just completed will be the same for both panels. So there's a right arm panel and a left arm panel. Up until this point, they're exactly the same. So you can go ahead and re-watch this video if you forgot how to do all of these rows. So up until row 41, they're exactly the same, and then row 42 is where they're going to be slightly different. So I'm only going to show you how to do it on one of the panels. So this is the left arm panel, but the right arm panel, I'll explain how to do that. So the only difference is the side on which we do the short rows and the decreasing. So on the right arm panel, we'll decrease on one side, and on the left arm panel, we'll be decreasing on the opposite side. That way, when we put our shrug on, it is mirrored and matches up evenly. So for this panel, I'm working the left arm panel, and you're going to be slip stitching in the first 5 stitches. So work 1 slip stitch into each of the first 5 stitches, and then you're going to slip stitch over one more time into the 6th stitch. So you'll have a total of 6 slip stitches, but these first 5 are the ones that we're no longer going to be working into. And then I'm going to slip stitch here the 6th time, and then chain 2, and then work 1 half double crochet into that same spot as the final slip stitch. So now we just shortened our row by a total of 5 stitches, and we will no longer be working in these 5 stitches at the end. So you can continue with 1 half double crochet into each of the remaining stitches. And for the right arm panel, to start row 42, you would chain 2, work 1 half double crochet into each of the stitches all the way across until you reach the last 5 stitches of the row, and those are the ones you would leave unworked. So you would just work across until you have 5 remaining, and then turn your work. That way, for both of the panels, you have 5 unworked stitches on both sides. Just for the left arm panel, you slip stitch to get rid of them, and for the right arm panel, you just leave them unworked. So then for row 43, go ahead and turn your work, and we're going to be working double crochet stitches now, and this is an increase row, so when we get to the center stitch marker, we are going to be working 3 double crochet into it. If you were on the right arm panel here, you would be leaving those 5 unworked, and then you would slip stitch over 3 to get rid of 3 more stitches. And then for the left arm panel here, I'm just going to double crochet to that center stitch, increase, and then now I'm leaving 3 stitches unworked. So you can see I am not going to work in these final 3 stitches. We're going to leave those unworked so that we decrease those stitches on the end here, and then just turn your work to start row 44. So now I'm going to be slip stitching over. I'm going to work 1 slip stitch into the first 3 stitches, so 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to be working a 4th slip stitch. So working 1 more slip stitch over into the 4th stitch, and then we're going to chain 2, and then work 1 half double crochet into that same spot. So we just got rid of 3 more stitches, and then if you were on the opposite panel, you'd be working across the row until 3 remain, and you would leave those unworked. So you can see it's going to be the same on both panels, it's just opposite rows and opposite sides, if that makes sense. So we're going to continue with 1 half double crochet in each stitch across. And this is not a increase row, so you do not need to increase when you reach that stitch marker. Just continue across to the end here, and then turn your work. And then for row 45, we're going to be doing a double crochet row. So work 1 double crochet into each of the stitches. And this is also not an increase row, so you can just move your stitch marker up once you reach it and then work to the end. And again, we're going to leave 3 stitches remaining. So now for the rest of these rows here, while we're shaping, we're leaving 3 remaining each time. So you either leave 3 unworked, and then in the next row you slip stitch over 3. So it's the same for the right arm panel as well. You'll be leaving 3 unworked and then slip stitching over 3 with every single row here. So I've slip stitched 3 and then I slip stitch a 4th time, and then I'm going to work a half double crochet into that same stitch and in each of the stitches across. And this is an increase row, so when we reach that center stitch marker, we are going to be increasing here before moving on. So now for the following rows, you're just going to continue repeating these last few rows that I've showed you. So we are going to be doing our increase row here, working our way across to the end, and then we'll turn and we'll double crochet back across and leave 3 unworked, and then turn, slip stitch 3, and then half double crochet across. So we're just going to be repeating, and all those repeat rows are written out in the written pattern on my blog. So I'm going to continue on until I reach row 56, where I will show you what to do, because then we will be doing something different. So we're just going to decrease by 3 stitches on one side only with each row, but we're also still increasing every 3rd row in the stitch marker here until we reach row 56. So I am at the end of row 55 here, about to start row 56. This is what my work is looking like. We have left 3 stitches remaining after every row, plus slip stitched 3 over. So we're always decreasing by 3 stitches on the ends of the rows, as well as doing our increases still every 3rd row in the center. And now you do not need to continue moving your stitch marker up here if you don't want to, because we are done with that. So you can remove it if you want. I'm just finishing with my final double crochet for row 55, and I have 3 stitches remaining to finish that row. So now for row 56, we're going to be doing a little bit more shaping before moving on. So go ahead and turn your work. And then we're going to be slip stitching into the first stitch here. If you are on the right arm panel, you would be working your way across until 3 remain, and then you would half double crochet 2 together and leave the final stitch unworked. But we are on the left arm panel, so instead of leaving the final stitch unworked, we're slip stitching into that stitch to get rid of it. And then over the next 2 stitches, we're half double crochet 2 together. So we're just decreasing these 2 stitches together with a half double crochet 2 together. So now we have 1 stitch there. So we've slip stitched and then did a half double crochet 2 together, and then half double crochet to the end of the row. Again, on the right arm panel, you would start the row by half double crochet into each stitch across until 3 remain. Then you would do a half double crochet 2 together and leave the final stitch unworked. So now for row 56, just continue across until you reach the end of the row. Now we're on row 57, and we're just going to work 1 double crochet into each stitch across until the end. So depending on what size you're making, you might not be working row 57, extra small stops on row 56. So make sure you have that written pattern up. And then some of the larger sizes will also be repeating these last 2 rows here a couple more times. But for this small medium size, I am just finishing row 57 with 1 double crochet into each stitch. And then I will be moving on to row 58, where we're just going to be working 1 half double crochet into each stitch across. So just chain 2, turn your work, and then work 1 half double crochet all the way to the end of the row. When you get to the end of the row, you can chain 2, turn your work, and now we are in the bead section. So this is where we're going to work those little bead stitches along the back of our shrug. It is different for the left panel and the right panel, but only slightly different. I'm doing the left panel, but I also show how to do the right panel as well after this. So for the left panel here, you're going to work a double crochet into that very first stitch, and then you're going to work a double crochet into the stitch following. And now we're going to be working the bead stitches. So around the post of the double crochet that you just made, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook behind that post, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert your hook behind that post again, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert your hook behind that post one more time, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through the first 6 loops only. So now you have 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over, pull through those final 2 loops to complete the bead stitch. And then we're just going to repeat that across. So skip over the next stitch, and in the following work a double crochet, and then yarn over, insert your hook behind the post of that double crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop. Repeat that 2 more times until you have 7 loops on your hook, and then yarn over, pull through the first 6 loops only, yarn over, pull through the final 2. And then skip the next stitch, work a double crochet into the following, and just continue repeating that all the way across the row. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end of the row here. I have 3 stitches remaining. I'm going to skip the next stitch and then work a double crochet into the final 2 stitches of the row to complete the bead section on the left panel. So I have a total of 20 beads here, and I'm going to chain 2, turn my work, and for row 60, we're just going to be working half double crochet stitches into each stitch across to complete the left panel. So just insert your hook into that first stitch and work a half double crochet, and just work 1 into each of the stitches. When you get to the end of the row, you can go ahead and fasten off. You'll want to leave one of your panels with a longer tail, or just keep it attached to your yarn. But this is my first panel here, and if it's your first panel that you're making, you can go ahead and cut your yarn and fasten off, and then you'll have to go back and you'll have to rework rows 1 through 41 of the panel that I just showed you, and then the shaping rows starting in row 42 are the same thing, just worked on opposite sides. So I'm still going to show you how to do the bead row here, but first I want to show you the right arm panel just to make sure I'm explaining it clear enough. So I have this one complete, and then on the right arm panel, I did not show this one in the video, but it's the same thing from the cuff all the way up until row 41, and then row 42 here, which is where we started the short rows. You can see on this one, instead of slip stitching over, I worked my way across and left those 5 unworked, and then I turned my work, slip stitched those 3, worked across all the way until the end. So instead of leaving these unworked like I would have on that panel that I showed you, we just have them on the opposite end. So for one of the panels, you'll either leave unwork and then slip stitch, or for the other panel, you'll slip stitch over and then leave remaining unworked. So it's the same thing. You're still going to be getting rid of 5 stitches in that first row. You can see I stopped short of those 5 and then turned my work, and then I slip stitched over 3 and then worked a fourth slip stitch and continued my row across just like on the panel I showed you. So you're still creating those steps on the end here, just on the opposite side of the work, so that we have a left side of the shrug and the right side of the shrug. Your stitch counts for both of the panels are the same as well, and your increases are the same. And then when you get to the last couple rows up here, Like I explained earlier, instead of slip stitching over one and then working a half double crochet two together, you just work across until 3 remains, and then you do a half double crochet two together and leave the final stitch unworked. So it's all the same thing, you're just having your decreases on the opposite sides of the rows. So I have row 57 complete for the right arm panel, and now I need to work that half double crochet row for row 58 before doing the bead row. So I'm just going to chain 2, turn my work, half double crochet across, and then I will show you the slight difference in the bead row for this right panel. Okay, so now we're on row 59 of the right panel, and it's just a little bit different. I have chain 2, 1 double crochet in the first 2 stitches, and then 1 double crochet into the 3rd stitch, and this is where we are doing our beads. So instead of having 1 double crochet and then doing a second one before starting the bead, we have 2 double crochet and then doing that 3rd double crochet where we start the bead around that post. And then it's the same from here on out, just skipping a stitch, doing a double crochet, and then continuing across the row with our bead stitches. And then you can see I have 2 stitches remaining, and we're just going to finish with our final double crochet into that last stitch of the row to complete the bead row on the right panel. I still have 20 beads for my size, and then each of the sizes will have a different amount of beads as well, so you can count them to see if your stitch count is correct. And then you just finish with row 60, working 1 half double crochet into each stitch across to finish the right arm panel. Okay, so now we just need to seam our left arm and our right arm panel together. You can see they are complete here, and I'm still attached to my second arm panel. I have the wrong sides facing up right now and the right sides are facing down, and you're going to want to sandwich your work together so that the right sides are facing, and then you can either use your hook and slip stitch across, or you can use a needle. And again, the right sides are when you're looking at row 1 on the correct, when you're facing row 1, that is the right side of your work. You'll be able to tell it's the row that has the defined lines on the outside of the panels. So you want to just make sure your right sides are facing. And then I'm just going to use my hook and slip stitch across row 60 of both panels. So what I did was insert my hook into the outer loops only. For that very first initial slip stitch, I did it under both loops, but I like the extra detail texture that it gives working in the outer loops to sew it across. You can do it however you prefer, but you can see I'm sticking in my hook in the outer loops only of both panels, working my way across to join. If you prefer sewing instead, you can sew it together, or you can work under both of the loops. However you want to do it is totally fine, but I like the extra little detailed line that it gives down the back from working in the outer loops only. So I'm going to go ahead and just work my way all the way across the row, joining the back of the shrug together. When you get to the end of the row, you can go ahead and just fasten off your yarn. And now we're going to be seaming the underarms together as well. Okay, so now we have the back of the shrug sewn together, and I still am going to have the right sides facing, and I'm just going to fold the sleeves together so that we can seam along the bottom. So the wrong side is facing out still, and we're going to use our hook or needle. And so from the cuff at the very end of the cuff all the way up until the row 42 where we start to do those shorter rows, you're just going to sew that together, and the same thing on the other side as well. The most important part for this step is to make sure that your rows are even on both sides. So when you're sewing it together, you'll just want to make sure that both ends of row 1 are lined up, both ends of row 2 are lined up, both ends of row 3 are lined up. all the way across. You can see very distinctly the lines of these rows on the on your work. So if it is uneven and you're not checking as you're going, it will look like it is sewn together crooked and uneven. So just make sure that as you go, you're making sure your rows are lined up and that they are right next to the same row on the other side. So you can just slip stitch like I am here, or you can use your needle and your preferred stitching method. Any way that you prefer to do it will work for this design. So just go ahead and sew across and then fasten off and do the same thing on the opposite side as well. Okay, so now our shrug is all sewn together and we still need to add the trim here. So I have my shrug right side facing out now. And we're just going to add some rows around the opening of the shrug to finish it off. And once we add those rows in, it will hide the steps that were created in the short rows. So those will be hidden and blend in underneath the trim. So we're going to grab our hook and a new piece of yarn, and you're going to join your yarn in on the bottom corner here on the left side, which is the right arm panel, and we're going to work some single crochet stitches around the opening. Okay, so you're just going to join your yarn with a slip stitch right next to the seam of the underarm at the right arm panel, and then chain one, and in that same stitch work a single crochet, and then you're just going to work a single crochet into those next few stitches there. So we're on the row where we had those 5 unworked stitches. So you're just working one single crochet into each of them, and then when you get to the end of the short row right there where it goes up a step, you're going to be working a single crochet into the side of it. So just into the side of that row, work a single crochet, and then work a single crochet into the top of those 3. You might need to wiggle your hook in a bit because these are the slip stitches of those rows, so it might be a little tighter to work into. But just insert your hook and then work one single crochet into the top of each of them. And then when you get to the end of the next row, you'll be doing the same thing and work a single crochet into the end of the row here for that double crochet row. So I'm just working it around the chain, and then I'm going to work a single crochet into the top of the double crochet and into the top of the next 2 double crochet as well. And then we're just going to continue doing that up the side of this panel. So again, work a single crochet into the end of that row and then into the top of the next 3 stitches. And you're just going to do that all the way up the first side of this opening of the shrug. And then when you get to the back of the shrug, you're going to work into the ends of those rows as well along the neckline. And then on the opposite side, you're doing the same thing as well by working a single crochet into the top of each of the stitches and one single crochet into the ends of those rows as well. You can see it's already starting to straighten out here, and we're going to be adding several more rounds in, and it'll continue to straighten out. So up here is where you'll be working into the ends of the rows. I worked approximately 1 single crochet for the end of each half double crochet row and 2 single crochet for the end of each double crochet row along the back neckline. So then you're also going to work along the bottom of the shrug all the way across, doing the same thing until you reach the first single crochet made, where you're just going to slip stitch to join, and then you're going to turn your work after round 1. And then for rounds 2 through 4, you're just going to work 1 single crochet stitch into each of those stitches all the way around, making sure you turn after each round. So you slip stitch to join, turn your work, chain 1 single crochet into each of those stitches. After round 4, you're going to slip stitch to join, turn your work, and then for round 5, work 1 slip stitch into each stitch around, and then just fasten off after that to complete the shrug. And then you just need to weave in any remaining ends that you have, and that is it for this design. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.